The city never slept, but I did. At least I tried to. My eyelids burned, heavy as stone after a 16-hour shift at the hospital. My scrubs were wrinkled, my sneakers scuffed, and my entire body ached in ways I'd stopped counting years ago. I sat on the cracked bench at the bus stop, clutching my bag like it was life itself, the cold night air cutting through my thin jacket. I told myself I'd stay awake. I always did. But exhaustion had no mercy. My head dipped, then dipped again, until it found something solid and warm. A shoulder. I startled, blinking myself awake, heat crawling up my cheeks. Beside me sat a man. Not just a man, a presence. Broad shoulders, sharp jaw, eyes like molten gold watching me with an intensity that made my pulse stumble. "Sorry," I mumbled, scrambling to sit upright. "I didn't mean to—" "Sleep," he interrupted, his voice low, deep, and commanding. The kind of voice that wasn't used to being argued with. I should have been afraid. Any woman alone at night in New York would have been. But something about him was different. His scent clung to me. Wood smoke, rain, and something wild I couldn't place. It wasn't cologne. It was natural, primal. My breath caught, because I didn't know him, but my body did. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if he noticed my reaction. He leaned closer, the night wrapping around us like a secret. "You shouldn't be out here alone." "I don't really have a choice," I whispered, my voice betraying how tired I was. He studied me, his gaze flicking from my worn-out sneakers to the dark circles under my eyes. For a moment, I swore there was something dangerous flickering in that golden stare. Not danger directed at me, but at the world that left me like this. "You'll see me again," he said finally, like it was a promise, or a warning. Then a sleek black car pulled up at the curb. He stood, towering over me, his shadow stretching long across the cracked pavement. I thought he'd leave without another word, but before he slid inside, he glanced back once more. And when he did, my heart stuttered. Because for a second, in the reflection of the car window, I didn't see a man at all. I saw the faint outline of a wolf.
This is a werewolf romance audiobook written by Celine Faxi for entertainment only. Enjoy.
Chapter 1. The Nurse and the Stranger. The alarm blared at 6 a.m., dragging me out of the kind of sleep that wasn't rest at all. My head pounded, my back ached, and the cheap mattress did nothing for either. I rolled out of bed and stared at the tiny studio apartment I called home. A kitchenette crammed into the corner, a second-hand dresser leaning on one leg, peeling paint on the walls. New York was expensive. Being a nurse barely covered rent, let alone groceries, which meant working double shifts, taking every overtime slot, and pushing my body until exhaustion claimed me at bus stops. I groaned and shoved a piece of bread into the toaster. My brain replayed the night before, despite my best efforts to block it out. That man, the one with eyes like liquid gold. I rubbed my face, muttering, "Get a grip, girl." Handsome strangers didn't materialize at bus stops, not in this city. And if they did, they didn't look at girls like me as if I mattered. I pulled my scrubs on, stuffed my hair into a messy bun, and went to work. The hospital was chaos. Crying children, exhausted doctors, the endless beep of monitors. I buried myself in it, like always. Caring for others gave me purpose. It reminded me I mattered, even when I felt invisible everywhere else. By the time I clocked out, I was dragging again. The night air was sharp as I stepped outside, hugging my jacket closer. That's when I noticed the car. Not just any car. A sleek black SUV parked across the street. Windows tinted, engine idling. My skin prickled, but I shook it off. New York was full of expensive cars, not my world. Except, the moment I reached the bus stop, the back window rolled down. My heart lurched. It was him, the man from last night. His golden eyes found mine like they'd been waiting all day. "You again?" I muttered under my breath, too stunned to move. "You shouldn't be standing here," he said, voice calm but firm, as if my being on this street was unacceptable. "Get in." I laughed nervously, clutching my bag tighter. "Yeah, no. That's how women end up on true crime documentaries." His lips twitched, almost a smile, though his aura was too commanding for warmth. "If I wanted to harm you, I had my chance last night." "Comforting," I said dryly, stepping back. "But I'm not getting in your car. I don't know you." "Yet," he corrected, eyes flashing like embers catching light. The word burned. Yet. I swallowed hard, fighting the strange pull inside me. Every nerve screamed at me to run. But something deeper, something older than logic, whispered to stay. "Look," I said, my voice breaking on exhaustion more than fear. "I appreciate the whatever this is, but I'm not interested in handouts or strange men who think they can just swoop in because they drive a nice car. I take the bus, that's my life." His jaw tightened. Not in anger, frustration. Like he wasn't used to being told no. Then, slowly, he leaned forward. The car's interior light caught his face, illuminating sharp cheekbones, a scar along his jaw, and those impossible golden eyes. "You think this is about money?" I froze. "This isn't charity. This is—" His words trailed, but his gaze locked on mine. Fierce. Hungry. Fate. The bond slammed into me like a wave. My lungs constricted, my knees threatened to buckle. My heart recognized him before my mind could deny it. But I tore my gaze away, shaking my head furiously. "No. You've got the wrong girl. Whatever you think you saw in me, you're mistaken." His hand flexed against the leather seat. For a moment I swore claws flashed at his fingertips, then vanished. "There are no mistakes." The driver glanced nervously in the mirror as if he, too, knew what his alpha had just revealed. Alpha. The word drifted through my mind like a whisper. I turned, storming away, heart racing. My world was small, human, fragile. I couldn't afford this. Not fairy tales, not fate. But as I sat at the bus stop again, trying to calm my pounding pulse, the SUV pulled away into the night. And even though I told myself I was glad, that I wanted nothing to do with him, my body betrayed me because I already missed him. Chapter 2. The Alpha at the Hospital. Hospitals always smelled the same, bleach and despair, with just a hint of burned coffee. I hated it, but I lived in it. The endless white walls and harsh fluorescent lights blurred into one another, day after day, shift after shift. I leaned against the nurse's station, trying to ignore the ache in my lower back. A double shift was brutal, but bills didn't care about exhaustion. My body screamed for rest, yet the pager clipped to my hip promised I wasn't done yet. "Room 314 needs meds," Dr. Kim barked as he rushed past, dropping another chart in front of me. I nodded, already moving. Routine. That's what this was. My life was nothing but routine. Predictable, endless, and safely human. Until he walked in. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. No man like him belonged in this place. He didn't just enter the emergency room, he commanded it. People moved without realizing, giving him space, as if the air shifted to obey him. His black tailored coat brushed against his thighs, and his presence turned the sterile hospital corridor into something wild, electric. Golden eyes found me instantly. I froze, meds forgotten in my hand. "What the hell?" I whispered under my breath. He moved toward me with unhurried certainty, each step echoing with the sound of inevitability. A predator with all the time in the world. "You!" I hissed, heart hammering as I shoved the chart against my chest like a shield. "How did you... Why are you here? I told you we'd see each other again." His voice was steady, deep, threaded with something primal that made my insides tremble. "You followed me here?" A few nurses glanced up, curious. He didn't even look at them. His eyes stayed fixed on me, gaze burning with intensity that felt like it would strip away my every defense. I found you, he corrected, lowering his voice so only I could hear. You shouldn't have to stand at a bus stop after saving lives all night. You shouldn't live like this. My throat tightened, fury and shame battling in my chest. Who was he to come here? To look at my life, my sacrifices, and decide I wasn't enough? Don't you dare pity me, I snapped. I work hard. I don't need pity? His golden eyes flared, sharp as sunlight through broken glass. He leaned closer, the edge of his coat brushing against my arm. You think that's what this is? I don't pity you. I claim you. The words hit harder than a slap. My blood went cold, my skin hot, every nerve screaming with awareness. The bond roared awake between us, undeniable. It wasn't just attraction. It was deeper, older, ancient. You're insane, I whispered hoarsely, but the words lacked conviction. No, he said softly, dangerously. I'm Alpha. The word rolled off his tongue with such certainty that I felt it in my bones. And suddenly, the strange reflection I thought I'd imagined in the car window made sickening sense. He wasn't just some millionaire with a wolfish aura. He was literally a wolf. My heart thudded, panic clawing its way up my throat. Stay away from me, I demanded, though it came out broken. Something shifted in his eyes. Pain? Frustration? He exhaled slowly, as if forcing himself to give me space. I will not force you, but you can't fight fate forever. The bond will only grow stronger. And with that, he turned. Just like that. Leaving me clutching the chart like it was the only thing keeping me upright, my chest heaving, my hands shaking so badly the papers slipped from my grip. I wanted to scream, to deny him, to laugh in his face. But when his scent lingered in the hall long after he was gone, smoke and rain wild and intoxicating, I knew the truth. I was already his, and that terrified me more than anything. Chapter 3. The Invitation. The next morning, I promised myself I would forget him. I scrubbed my face, tied back my hair, and threw myself into the day like nothing had happened. Just another shift, just another morning in New York. I was a nurse, exhausted, underpaid, invisible. Men like him didn't exist in my world. Except, they did. Because when I left the hospital after my shift, I found him waiting. Not leaning casually against a wall like some lovesick fool, not hiding in the shadows. No, he stood beside the same sleek SUV from before, its tinted windows glinting in the pale sunlight. He wore a dark suit this time, perfectly cut, sharp lines that looked more like armor than clothing. He wasn't pretending to be ordinary. He wasn't hiding who or what he was. And I hated how my heart skipped just seeing him. I tightened my grip on my bag and forced myself forward. You need to stop following me. I'm not following, he said simply, voice smooth even. I'm waiting. For what? You. The word landed like a blow. He said it with such certainty, such calm, that for one terrifying second I almost believed it. Look, I muttered, trying to push past him. I don't have time for this. I have rent due, bills piling up, and another shift in 12 hours, so whatever fantasy you're trying to play out... Dinner. I blinked. Excuse me? Have dinner with me, he said, like it wasn't a request at all. I laughed sharply. Are you kidding me? You think I'm going to climb into your fancy car and... Yes. The way he said it, steady, commanding, like the word itself bent the world, sent a shiver down my spine. But I forced myself to shake my head. No, I don't know you, and I don't want to. His eyes softened, just slightly, enough to crack the steel in his voice. Then let me change that. Before I could argue, the back door of the SUV opened, and inside, my breath caught. It wasn't just leather seats and polished wood. It was opulence, a table set with glassware, a silver tray carrying dishes that steamed faintly in the cool air. It looked like a private dining room had been carved out of the vehicle itself. What? How? I stammered. I'm not asking you to abandon your world, he said quietly. I'm inviting you into mine. I stared at him, at the impossible reality in front of me. The smart choice would have been to walk away, to run, to never look back. But my stomach clenched with hunger, my legs ached from hours of standing, and God help me. Curiosity burns hotter than fear. I slid into the SUV. His eyes gleamed with something dangerous, triumphant as he joined me inside. The car purred to life, gliding into the stream of New York traffic. For a moment, silence stretched between us, broken only by the city outside. Then he spoke. My name is Adrian Blackwood. I blinked. The name wasn't unfamiliar. I'd heard whispers, on the news, in hospital gossip, in the kinds of conversations people thought no one overheard. A millionaire, a businessman, a man too powerful to cross. You're that Blackwood? I asked faintly. His lips curved, though it wasn't exactly a smile. The same. I pressed a hand to my forehead. This is insane. Why me? I'm no one. His gaze locked onto mine, golden and unyielding. You are my mate. The word thrummed in the air like a spell, like a vow. And though I didn't understand the weight of it, my heart responded as if it had been waiting to hear it all my life. Chapter 4. Dinner with the Alpha. The SUV's cabin was silent except for the low hum of the engine and the muffled chaos of New York beyond the tinted glass. Inside, it felt like another world. Warm, insulated, intimate. Too intimate. I sat stiffly, my bag clutched in my lap, while Adrian poured wine into 2 crystal glasses as though we were at a 5-star restaurant instead of in a moving car. He handled everything with calm precision, like a man who was always in control. I hated how calm he was when my insides felt like a hurricane. Eat, he said, sliding a plate toward me. Salmon, asparagus, roasted potatoes, delicacies that didn't belong anywhere near my budget. I shouldn't, I faltered. His golden eyes narrowed slightly and my stomach growled at the worst possible moment. Heat flooded my face. Fine, I muttered, snatching the fork. The first bite melted on my tongue, savory and rich. My body betrayed me again, sighing in relief at real food. It was the first proper meal I'd had in days, and it showed. Better? He asked. I glared at him over the fork. Stop looking so smug. You're not rescuing me. I'm not trying to rescue you. He leaned back in his seat, one arm draped over the leather like a king on a throne. I'm feeding what's mine. The fork froze halfway to my mouth. Excuse me? His gaze didn't waver. You're mine, Lila, my mate. The word again. Mate. Like it meant something bigger than just attraction, bigger than love. My chest tightened as the same magnetic pull flared between us, making my pulse race. I set the fork down hard. Listen, I don't know what kind of cult or... It's not a cult. His voice cut through my protest, sharp and commanding. It's truth. Our kind doesn't stumble across destiny by accident. When the moon goddess chooses, the bond is unbreakable. I blinked, trying to keep my breathing even. Our kind? Adrian, I'm not... Whatever you think I am, you're wrong. I'm human. Just human. His jaw tightened, but his eyes softened. You're human. But that doesn't matter. The bond doesn't make mistakes. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. The conviction in his voice shook me. He believed this. Believed us. And a part of me, a very dangerous part, wanted to believe it too. I looked away, pressing a hand to my forehead. You're insane. You sound... Do you feel it? His question cut through my words. I froze. He leaned forward, his voice low, almost a growl. When you look at me, when you breathe in my scent, when our eyes meet and your chest tightens, tell me you don't feel it. I wanted to. God, I wanted to laugh in his face, call him delusional and storm out. But I couldn't. Because the truth was, I felt it every time he looked at me. That invisible thread pulling us closer. That ache in my chest when he walked away. I stayed silent, my throat too tight to answer. Adrian's lips curved, not into a smile, but something deeper. A knowing. You feel it. Anger flared, at him, at myself, at the unfairness of it all. Even if I do, I can't just throw my life away because some ancient wolf goddess decided to play matchmaker. His golden eyes burned hotter, but his voice softened. I'm not asking you to throw your life away. I'm asking you to let me in. The car slowed, pulling to a stop. Outside the tinted window, glittering lights stretched across the skyline. Manhattan, his world, a world that had always been untouchable to someone like me. I swallowed hard, heart hammering. Every instinct screamed that stepping into his world meant no going back. And yet, I couldn't look away from him. Chapter 5. Crossing into the Alpha's world. The SUV purred to a stop outside towering wrought iron gates, their black steel marked with a crest, 2 wolves circling a silver moon. I froze. This can't be real, I whispered, more to myself than to Adrian. He glanced at me, calm as ever. It's very real. And it's time you saw it. The gates opened silently, like they were waiting for us, and the car glided down a private drive lined with old oaks. Their branches curled overhead like skeletal fingers, shadows spilling across the sleek blacktop. At the end of the drive, a mansion rose out of the darkness. Not gaudy, not tacky. Something older, heavier, the kind of house that carried secrets in its stones. Columns rose high against the night sky, and massive windows glowed with golden light. I pressed back into the seat, clutching my bag tighter. Adrian, no. I can't go in there. His gaze slid to me, golden eyes steady. You already have. The SUV doors unlocked with a soft click. My heart pounded as I climbed out, my sneakers crunching against the gravel. The air here felt different, charged, alive. And then I realized we weren't alone. Figures moved in the shadows, men, women, watching from the edges of the driveway. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, not human at all. Wolves in human skin. My stomach dropped. Adrian, I hissed, trying to back toward the car. This is insane. These people... They're my pack, he said simply. He stepped beside me, close enough that his heat radiated against my arm. And now, they're yours too. The words sent ice racing down my spine. No, I never agreed to that. You don't have to. His voice dropped to a low rumble. The bond decided. Before I could respond, the mansion doors opened, spilling warm light across the stone steps. A tall woman descended, sleek black hair, sharp cheekbones, dressed in silks that screamed elegance. Her eyes narrowed on me instantly. So it's true, she murmured, voice carrying a subtle hiss. You brought her. My chest tightened. She looked at me like I was dirt on her shoes. Adrian's posture shifted subtly, his shoulders rolling back, his presence expanding until the very air seemed to bow. Alpha. Every inch of him radiated it. Show respect, Helena, he said, his tone like steel wrapped in velvet. She is under my protection. Helena's lips twitched. Not quite a smile. Not quite a snarl. Protection is one thing, but making her Luna? Her eyes flicked over me, dripping disdain. She's weak. Human. The word sliced like a blade. I wanted to snap back, but fear strangled me. What could I say? She wasn't wrong. I was human. Poor. Exhausted. I didn't belong in a world of golden-eyed predators. But before I could collapse under the weight of that truth, Adrian's hand found the small of my back. Steady. Firm. She is mine, he said, his voice dropping low, a growl threaded through the words. and she will be your Luna. You will respect her, or you will answer to me." The air shifted, heavy and charged, like a storm waiting to break. The wolves in the shadows stilled, watching, silent. Helena's jaw tightened. Her eyes flicked to me again, burning with a promise I didn't understand. Then, with a sharp turn, she swept back inside the mansion. Adrian's touch lingered at my back. "Come," he murmured, softer now. "You've seen the gates. Now step fully inside." Every instinct screamed at me to run, to turn and never look back. But I didn't. My feet carried me forward, across the stone steps, past the wolves who watched with unreadable eyes, into the mansion that smelled of smoke, pine, and something older than time. And with each step, one truth pressed heavier against my chest. I wasn't just walking into Adrian's house, I was walking into his world. Chapter 6. The Mansion of Wolves. The doors closed behind me with a heavy thud that echoed through the cavernous entryway. I'd never seen anything like it. The mansion's interior was warm with golden light, but there was nothing comforting about it. The air carried the faint scent of smoke, pine, and something older, earthy, primal, dangerous. High ceilings arched overhead, lined with exposed beams. A massive fireplace roared in the center hall, its flames throwing shadows across the stone walls. And everywhere, eyes. Pack members moved silently along the hallways, their gazes flicking toward me and away again, sharp as blades. Some curious, some hostile, none welcoming. I tightened my grip on my bag, my pulse pounding. "This isn't a home," I whispered under my breath. "It's a fortress." Adrian's lips curved faintly. "Both." He walked beside me, his presence steady, commanding, impossible to ignore. Every step he took echoed with authority, as though the house itself bent around him. I tried to keep my voice level. "Why are they looking at me like that?" "Because you don't belong here." He didn't soften the words. They landed heavy, blunt, true. Then his gaze cut to me, gold catching the firelight. "But you will." Something inside me rebelled at the certainty in his tone. "You can't just decide that. You can't just drag some girl off the street and declare her yours. That's not how your world works," he finished smoothly. "But this isn't your world anymore, Lila." Before I could argue, a figure appeared on the staircase. A young man, maybe 20, wiry and lean, eyes sharp as a hawk's. He moved fast, dropping into a bow before Adrian. "Alpha," he said breathlessly. "Scouts report movement at the east border, rogues." Adrian's jaw tightened. The air in the hall shifted. Tense. "How many?" "6, maybe 7, circling." Adrian's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "Double the patrol. No one crosses. If they test our strength, remind them whose city this is." The young wolf nodded sharply and vanished as quickly as he came. I stood frozen, the word burning in my head. Rogues, not just wolves, dangerous wolves. Wolves that wanted something. I whispered, This is real. All of it." Adrian turned to me then, close enough that his scent wrapped around me. Cedar, musk, and the faint wild edge of pine forests. "It's real. And it's yours now, whether you accept it or not." My breath caught. His nearness was overwhelming, intoxicating. My body leaned toward him before my mind could stop it. But then I remembered Helena's sneer, the eyes in the shadows, the word human spat like an insult. I pulled back. "They'll never accept me." "They don't have to accept you." His gaze locked on mine, intense, unyielding. "They have to accept me, and I've chosen you." The words hit like fire. It wasn't a promise. It was a declaration. Before I could speak, he turned and led me deeper into the house. My steps echoed against polished stone as I followed him down a hallway lined with portraits. Men and women painted in old oil, all with the same golden eyes. His ancestors, alphas before him. Finally, we stopped at a heavy wooden door. He pushed it open, revealing a room unlike the rest of the mansion. Smaller, warmer. A library, lined floor to ceiling with books. A fire crackled in the hearth, the air filled with the scent of leather and ink. "This is where you'll be safe tonight," he said quietly. "My wolves will not disturb you here." I stepped inside, half expecting the shadows themselves to lunge at me. But the room felt different, quieter, almost gentle, if a place like this could ever be gentle. I turned to him, my throat tight. "Why me, Adrian? Out of all the women in this city, out of all the wolves in your pack, why me?" For the first time, his mask slipped just a little. His voice softened. "Because the moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. And because from the moment you leaned against me, sleeping like you trusted me with your life, I knew I'd never let you go." The memory hit hard. My exhaustion, my head on his shoulder, his stillness beside me. A stranger who hadn't moved, hadn't pushed me away. And now here he was, telling me I belonged to him. My heart pounded, torn between terror and something far more dangerous. Desire. Chapter 7. Whispers in the dark. The library door shut with a low click, leaving me in the warm glow of the fire. For the first time since the bus stop, there was silence. No engines, no stairs, no wolves breathing down my neck. I sank into one of the leather chairs, clutching my bag against me like a shield. The scent of books and smoke wrapped around me, soothing and suffocating all at once. Safe. That's what he'd said, but safe felt impossible. I leaned back, staring at the fire. My whole body ached from exhaustion, but my mind raced too fast for sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Those glowing eyes in the dark, Helena's contempt, Adrian's golden gaze burning with certainty. Mate, Luna, mine. The words curled in my chest like fire and ice, battling until my head spun. Finally, restless, I stood and paced. My fingers trailed along the bookshelves, their spines embossed with gold lettering. Histories of packs, old myths, journals so ancient the bindings cracked. I stopped at one shelf, pulling a volume free. The cover was black leather, scarred with claw marks that looked deliberate. Inside, sketches of wolves, not quite human, not quite beast. Mating bonds explained in faded script. Once chosen, the bond cannot be broken. Distance weakens but never severs. Denial only deepens the ache. My stomach twisted. It sounded more like a curse than a gift. A noise pulled me back, a low murmur muffled through the heavy door. I froze, holding my breath. Voices. Two. A man and a woman, hushed but sharp with tension. "She's human," the woman spat. "Weak, fragile. The pack will never follow her." Helena. My heart thudded painfully. I pressed closer to the door, straining to hear. "She's the Alpha's choice," the man replied. His tone was lower, uncertain. "You know what that means." "What it means," Helena hissed, "is that Adrian is blinded, and if he insists on forcing her on us, the pack will fracture. Do you want that? Do you want rogues circling while we tear ourselves apart?" The man didn't answer immediately. Helena pressed harder, her voice like venom. "She will ruin him, and if he can't see it, then we'll have to make him see it." I stumbled back from the door, my chest tightening. My hands shook so badly the book slipped from my fingers, thudding onto the rug. Panic surged. They wanted me gone. No, worse. They wanted to remove me. I crouched to grab the book, but the library door creaked. My heart nearly stopped. The handle turned, slow, deliberate. I scrambled to the chair, pretending to be reading. The door opened and a shadow stretched across the rug. "Couldn't sleep?" Adrian's voice. Relief and dread warred inside me. I looked up quickly, forcing my hands to still on the open pages. "Just reading." His eyes flicked to the fallen book on the floor. He picked it up, his fingers brushing the claw marks. Something unreadable passed over his face before he returned it to the shelf. You should rest, he said quietly. Tomorrow will be harder. I wanted to ask. About Helena, about the whispers I'd heard, about the wolves who would never accept me. But the words stuck in my throat. If I told him, would it make things worse? Would it make him angry or protective to the point of bloodshed? Instead, I nodded. I'll try. He stepped closer, close enough that I felt his warmth, smelled his cedar and smoke scent. My breath hitched. His gaze dropped to my lips for one long, unbearable second. Then he pulled back, his control iron tight. Good night, Lila. And just like that, he was gone. The door closed again. I sat frozen, my heart pounding so hard it hurt, because even though I hadn't told him what I heard, one truth echoed louder than any whisper in the hallway. I wasn't just an outsider here. I was a threat. Chapter 8. Trial by Fire. The next morning came too quickly. I barely slept. Every creak of the old mansion, every shadow under the door had me clutching the blanket like a shield. But when the knock came just after dawn, I forced myself up. Miss Lila? A young woman murmured when I opened the door. She was slender, her eyes a dull hazel instead of glowing gold. A servant, maybe. Human like me. The Alpha requests your presence in the main hall. Requests? The word sounded polite, but my stomach twisted anyway. I followed her through long corridors until we emerged into the great hall I'd glimpsed the night before. Now it was filled. Wolves lined the walls, men and women alike, all eyes sharp and unblinking. At the front, Adrian stood tall and composed, every inch the Alpha. When I stepped inside, his gaze found me instantly, steady and unshakable. It steadied me too, if only a little. But then Helena stepped forward. She was radiant in a crimson dress that clung like a second skin, her dark hair a perfect cascade. Every inch of her screamed power and poise, and when her gaze cut to me, the disdain was almost physical. "Alpha," she purred, her voice carrying through the hall. "Before we go any further, I think it's only fair we test her." The murmurs rippled instantly. Adrian's jaw tightened. "There will be no test." Helena tilted her head, her smile sharp. "And yet the pack must see her strength, must they not? If she is to stand as Luna, she must prove she is not a liability. Surely even you can see that." All eyes turned on me. My pulse thundered. My legs felt like water. Adrian stepped forward, his voice low but laced with steel. "You question me, Helena? You question my choice?" She bowed her head slightly, but the smirk never left her lips. "I only want what's best for the pack." And then, faster than I could process, she turned on me. "Tell me, human girl, what makes you worthy to stand at his side? What will you do when rogues come, when blood is spilled at our borders, when strength, not pity, is what keeps us alive?" The words lashed like a whip. The hall waited, silent, hungry. I opened my mouth, but nothing came. My throat locked, my mind a storm of fear. Helena's smile widened. She smelled weakness. But then, Adrian's hand closed around mine. Not pulling, not shielding, anchoring. His heat steadied me, and when I looked up, his gaze burned with quiet command. "Speak." The word wasn't spoken, but I felt it, deep in my chest. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice out. "I can't fight the way you can. I won't pretend I can. But I know what it means to bleed for someone, to give everything even when there's nothing left. I've worked double shifts to keep strangers alive. I've held the hands of the dying when no one else would. Maybe I'm weak to you, but I'm not afraid of giving all of myself for the people I love." The hall was silent. Helena's smirk faltered, just slightly. Adrian's hand squeezed mine once, firm, proud. "Strength," he said, his voice carrying like thunder, "is not only in claws and teeth, it is in heart, it is in loyalty. And in that she has more than most of you combined." The air shifted. Some of the wolves lowered their eyes in respect, Not all, but enough. Helena's lips thinned, her gaze flicking between us. "We shall see," she murmured. Then she bowed and stepped back, though the venom in her stare promised this was far from over. Adrian turned to me, his voice soft enough only I could hear. "You did well." But as the pack dispersed, as Helena's laughter trailed faintly behind her, one truth dug into me like a thorn. This wasn't over. This was only the beginning of the fight to survive here. Chapter 9. The Rogue's Shadow. The rest of the day passed in a blur. The pack dispersed after the confrontation, though I could still feel Helena's eyes burning holes into my back as she left. Adrian stayed close, too close. Everywhere I turned, his presence loomed, quiet but immovable. He didn't speak of the challenge, didn't berate me, didn't praise me. Just stayed. Until evening. I found myself on a balcony overlooking the city. From here, New York looked almost ordinary. Skylines stabbing into the twilight, car horns faint in the distance, life rushing on as if nothing had changed. But everything had. I wrapped my arms around myself, shivering despite the warm air. My thoughts tangled into knots. How was I supposed to live in this world? How was I supposed to be Luna when I barely understood what a Luna even was? "You're shivering." I jumped. Adrian stepped onto the balcony, his shadow stretching long in the fading light. His golden eyes caught the sunset, glowing like molten metal. "I'm fine," I lied quickly. He leaned on the railing beside me, silent for a long moment. Then, softly, "You were strong today." I let out a bitter laugh. I froze. If you hadn't stepped in, I'd have been ripped apart by her words. His gaze shifted to me, intense and unyielding. "No, you spoke truth. That's something Helena can't stand against, no matter how she postures." I turned away, staring at the city lights. Truth doesn't stop claws or fangs. And you know she's not done. She'll keep coming for me. And maybe she's right. My throat tightened. "I don't belong here, Adrian." The silence stretched. Then his hand brushed mine on the railing. Tentative, deliberate. "You do. Whether you believe it yet or not." I met his gaze. His closeness, the warmth of his touch, it pulled at me, dangerous and magnetic. My chest ached with the weight of wanting to lean into him, to let his certainty drown out my fear. But before either of us could speak again, a howl split the night. Low, sharp, chilling. It wasn't close, but it wasn't far either. I flinched. What was... Adrian's expression hardened instantly. His head lifted, listening. Another howl rose, then another, carried on the wind. "Rogues," he said flatly. The word froze my blood. Almost immediately the mansion erupted with movement. Wolves rushing through halls, doors slamming open, voices barking orders. The air itself seemed to hum with primal energy. Adrian straightened to his full height, alpha radiating from every line of his body. "Stay here," he ordered, voice brooking no argument. I grabbed his arm before I could think. "Wait, don't go out there alone." He glanced down at my hand, then back to my face. His eyes softened just slightly. "I don't fight alone. My pack is mine. My city is mine. And soon, you'll see. You're mine too." Then he was gone, striding back into the chaos. I stood frozen, heart hammering, the echoes of his words ringing in my ears. "You're mine." The sounds of the pack moving filled the night. Boots thudding, claws scratching against stone, growls low and ready. From the balcony, I saw shadows darting along the borders of the estate. Shapes too large, too fast, too wild to be human. The rogues had come. And in that moment, the truth crashed down on me like a wave. This wasn't just about Adrian. It wasn't just about Helena's jealousy or the pack's distrust. This was war. And I was standing at the heart of it, whether I wanted to or not. Chapter 10. Fire at the borders. The mansion shook with the thundering of paws and boots. I pressed against the balcony door, torn between obeying Adrian's order to stay inside and the impossible pull of chaos outside. How could I sit here while the world around me tore itself apart? I pushed the door open and slipped into the hall. It was madness. Wolves running, some half-shifted, claws scraping the polished wood. A young guard nearly collided with me, his eyes blazing amber. "Back inside, miss," he barked before rushing on. But I didn't. My feet carried me, faster than my thoughts, down the corridor and out the front doors. The night air was thick with tension, the metallic bite of fear and something darker, blood. At the estate's borders, figures clashed in the shadows. Wolves, enormous and snarling, snapped jaws like thunder. Rogues, wild-eyed and feral, lunged against the defenders with reckless violence. Sparks of fury and pain split the night. I stood frozen at the top of the steps, my heart a drumbeat in my ears. I shouldn't be here. I knew that. But I couldn't look away. Then I saw him. Adrian, mid-shift, his massive black wolf form a terrifying, magnificent sight. His fur caught the moonlight like obsidian, his eyes gold fire as he tore into a rogue that had broken through the line. He was brutal, efficient, every move radiating the undeniable truth, alpha. But then I saw something else. A shadow slipped past the battle, too fast, too silent. Not toward Adrian, toward me. My breath caught. The rogue wolf was lean, scarred, its eyes burning with madness. It bounded across the lawn, claws gouging the earth, straight at me. I stumbled back, searching wildly for a weapon, anything. My hands closed around a broken branch near the steps, laughably small against the beast charging me. The rogue leapt, teeth flashing, and Adrian slammed into it midair. The two wolves crashed to the ground in a tangle of fur and blood. Adrian's growl was earth-shaking, primal rage unleashed. The rogue snapped back, but it was no match. With a brutal twist, Adrian's jaws closed on its throat, and it went limp. The silence after was deafening. I stood trembling, the branch still clenched in my hand. My knees threatened to buckle. Adrian turned to me, his wolf eyes blazing, chest heaving. For a heartbeat, I didn't see the alpha. I saw the predator, raw and untamed, golden eyes pinning me like prey. Then, slowly, his form shifted. Bones cracked, fur receded, and he rose before me as a man again, bare-chested, blood streaked across his skin. He stalked toward me, closing the distance with impossible speed. "Did I not tell you to stay inside?" His voice was rough, a growl half-formed. I swallowed hard, shame and adrenaline tangling in my chest. I couldn't just sit there. I had to... You had to put yourself in the jaws of a rogue? He stepped closer, so close I could feel the heat of his fury, the tremor of his restraint. "Do you have any idea what would have happened if I'd been 1 second later?" Tears burned my eyes, but I forced my voice steady. "I wasn't going to stand by and be useless. Not again. Not while people are bleeding for me." His eyes searched for mine, fire meeting fire. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then, unexpectedly, his hand lifted, brushing my cheek. Gentle, despite the blood still wet on his skin. "You're not useless, Lila. But if I lose you..." His voice broke, just slightly. "If I lose you, none of this means anything." The ground seemed to vanish beneath me. My heart wasn't just pounding from fear now. It was from the sheer unbearable weight of what hung between us. Behind us, the battle still raged. But in that moment, all I could feel was his hand on my face, his breath mingling with mine, his words carving themselves into my soul. I wasn't sure if he was scolding me, claiming me, or confessing. Maybe all three. And terrifyingly, part of me wanted to answer with the truth I hadn't dared admit to myself until now. I was already his. Chapter 11, The Challenger's Whisper. The battle raged until dawn. By the time the last rogue fell, the estate's lawn looked like a battlefield. Torn earth, broken stone, streaks of blood soaking into the soil. Exhaustion hung heavy in the air, mingling with the copper tang of violence. Wolves limped back to the mansion, some in human form, others still half-shifted, their bodies marked with claws and fangs. Adrian stood at the center, commanding with clipped orders. He moved from warrior to warrior, checking wounds, ensuring the lines were secured. His presence alone kept the pack steady, even as they bled. I stayed on the steps, heart aching with guilt and awe. I hadn't fought, hadn't shed blood like them, but I'd seen it, felt the fear clawing through me. And yet, I was still here, alive, because Adrian had saved me. The warriors' gazes flicked to me as they passed. Some were curious, some respect. But more than a few looked at me with thinly veiled doubt. And then Helena arrived. Perfect, pristine, like she hadn't even lifted a claw that night. She glided across the torn lawn, her crimson dress unblemished, her smile sharp as glass. "Oh, what a tragedy," she crooned, surveying the wounded. So many were injured, so much blood spilled. And for what? Her eyes slid to me. For her? The words cut the air like a blade. Murmurs stirred among the warriors. Some shifted uneasily. Others stared openly at me, waiting. Adrian's head snapped toward her, eyes blazing. "Careful, Helena." She ignored him. She stepped closer to the crowd, her voice carrying like silk laced with venom. "We fought for the Alpha tonight, as we always do. But while we bled, while rogues clawed at our throats, Helena lifted a delicate hand toward me. Stood on the steps, clutching a stick, needing our Alpha to save her. And this is who you would have us call Luna. The murmurs grew louder. My stomach twisted. Adrian moved forward, but Helena raised her voice, louder, sharper. Our Luna should be strong. Our Luna should fight beside us, not hide behind us. She should protect, not need protecting. What happens when the rogues strike again? What happens when she's the reason more of us die? I couldn't breathe. Every word was a knife. And the worst part was, they weren't wrong. I had stood there, useless, watching them bleed. Adrian's roar silenced the murmurs. Enough! The power in his voice cracked through the dawn air, a command that froze wolves mid-breath. He stepped forward, golden eyes blazing like fire. You dare question my choice? You dare suggest the moon goddess made a mistake? Helena's smile didn't waver. If anything, it deepened. The moon goddess may guide, but it is the Alpha who leads, and an Alpha who chooses weakness. She let the words trail, but the implication hung heavy. My chest burned. Weakness. Liability. The words echoed inside me until I wanted to curl into myself and disappear. But then Adrian turned, faced me, not Helena, and his gaze, fierce and unshakable, anchored me to the earth. You are not weak, he said, voice lower, meant only for me, though the whole pack could hear. You are the reason I fight harder, the reason this pack has hope. They will see it. I'll make them see it. The world seemed to hold its breath. Helena's eyes narrowed, fury flickering behind her perfect mask. We shall see if hope keeps the rogues from our throats, Alpha, or if it's the end of us all. She turned sharply, her heels clicking against the stone, and disappeared into the mansion. The pack slowly dispersed, but the doubt lingered in their glances. I stood frozen, torn between gratitude for Adrian's defense and the gnawing weight of Helena's words. Because deep down I couldn't help but wonder, what if she was right? Chapter 12. The Gathering Storm. The mansion had been cleaned of blood, but not of tension. Wolves moved through the halls in silence, their wounds bandaged but their pride still raw. I walked the corridors with a heaviness in my chest. Every glance I caught weighted with unspoken doubt. Helena's words clung to the air like smoke. She'd planted the seed, Luna or liability, and I could feel it sprouting in every sidelong look. Adrian tried to shield me from it. He stayed close, his presence a fortress against their whispers. But I knew. An alpha could command obedience, not faith. Faith had to be earned, and I had done nothing to earn theirs. That night, I sat alone in the library, the crackling fire the only sound in the cavernous room. My thoughts swirled. Helena's scorn, the warrior's doubt, the memory of the rogue's teeth inches from my throat. I didn't hear Adrian enter until his reflection appeared in the glass. "You've been quiet," he said softly, moving to sit across from me. He looked tired, shadows beneath his eyes, a cut still healing along his jaw. Even bloodied, he carried himself with unshakable authority. I swallowed. "They hate me. They fear what they don't understand," he countered. "No," I said firmly, meeting his eyes. "They hate me because I don't belong here. Because Helena's right. I don't know how to be Luna. I don't know how to fight. I don't know how to lead." His jaw clenched. "You don't need to fight like them. That's not your strength." "Then what is my strength?" The words burst out, sharp and aching. "Tell me, Adrian, what do I bring to this pack except trouble? Why did the moon goddess tie you to me of all people?" For once, he had no quick answer. He stared into the fire, silent for a long moment, before finally speaking. "Because I was lost. Because I was drowning in my own rage. And the goddess knew I needed someone who wasn't born of this world, to remind me there's more than blood and war." His gaze met mine, fierce and unyielding. "You are my anchor, Lila, and they will see it, because I'll make them." Before I could respond, the library doors slammed open. A young warrior stumbled inside, his face pale. "Alpha!" he gasped, chest heaving. "The rogues! They're regrouping. More of them this time. Dozens, maybe more. They'll hit before dawn." Adrian was on his feet instantly, alpha steel settling over him. "Rally the pack. Double the perimeter. No one moves alone." The warrior bowed and rushed out. Adrian turned to me, golden eyes blazing with determination. "Stay here. No arguments this time." But something inside me shifted. The fear was still there, yes, but beneath it, something harder. "No," I said quietly. He froze. "No?" I rose to my feet, fists trembling but firm. "I can't hide again. I won't. If I'm to be your Luna, if I'm truly your mate, then I have to face what comes. Not from behind closed doors, by your side." His breath caught, eyes narrowing as if he couldn't quite believe what he'd heard. "You don't know what you're asking." "I know," I said, voice steady despite the quake in my chest. "I know it's dangerous. I know I can't fight like you. But I can stand. I can face them. And maybe that's enough." For the first time, Adrian's expression cracked. Not alpha, not a warrior, just a man, caught between fury and awe. "You'll be the death of me," he murmured. And yet, when he extended his hand, I took it. Together, we stepped out of the library, into the storm waiting beyond the walls. Chapter 13. The Siege of the Estate. The night split open with howls, not the steady chorus of a disciplined pack, but the jagged, frenzied cries of rogues. From the balcony of the estate, I saw them. Shadows swarming from the tree line, eyes glowing feral red in the dark. Dozens, maybe more. They moved with reckless hunger, their bodies tearing across the grounds like a black tide. Warriors shifted mid-run, fur erupting in a flash of bone and muscle, their answering howls rising to meet the threat. Steel clashed where claws couldn't reach. The ground quaked beneath the weight of the battle. Beside me, Adrian stood tall, already half-shifted, his command rolling like thunder across the battlefield. "Hold the line! Push them back to the trees!" His voice carried with alpha dominance, a force that steadied the defenders even as the rogues crashed against them like waves. I should have been terrified, and I was. My body shook, my heart beat too fast, but beneath the fear was something sharper, purpose. I couldn't fight like them. But there were wounded already. Wolves stumbling back from the front, blood pouring from gashes, warriors too dazed to rise again. That was where I could help. I darted from the balcony, ignoring Adrian's barked command to stay put, and sprinted across the lawn. A young she-wolf stumbled toward me, her side torn open. I dropped beside her, pressing my hands to the wound. "Stay with me," I whispered, tearing fabric from my shirt to staunch the bleeding. My hands shook, but I forced them steady, drawing on every ounce of training I had as a nurse. "You're not dying tonight, not here." Her breathing steadied. Relief surged through me, but there was no time to rest. Another warrior collapsed nearby, a gash at his temple. I scrambled to him, checking his pulse, tilting his head to keep his airway clear. One after another, the injured came. My hands moved faster than my fear, tying tourniquets, stemming blood, whispering words of comfort even as claws and fangs clashed all around us. For the first time, I wasn't useless. I was needed. A roar shook the ground behind me. I spun to see Adrian in his wolf form, locked in combat with two rogues. His massive jaws snapped, fur matted with blood that wasn't all his own. My heart clenched, but I forced myself to stay with the wounded. If I ran to him, I'd only be a distraction. If I stayed, I could save lives. The decision nearly tore me in two. "Lila!" I jerked my head up. Helena stood a few paces away, elegant even amidst the chaos, her crimson dress a slash of color against the carnage. Her eyes burned with fury. "This is what you call helping?" she spat. "Crouching in the dirt? Patching up the weak? Luna fights, she doesn't crawl like a servant." I rose to my feet, chest heaving. My hands were stained with blood, my shirt torn, but my voice rang clear. "No, Helena. Luna protects her pack, whether it's with claws or with these." I lifted my bloodied hands. Strength isn't only measured on the battlefield, it's measured in the lives we save. For the first time, Helena faltered. The warriors nearby heard. I saw it in their eyes, wounded and weary, but watching me now with something that wasn't doubt, something closer to belief. And then the tide of battle surged again, leaving no room for Helena's retort. Adrian slammed the last rogue to the ground, golden eyes snapping toward me. For a heartbeat, they softened. Pride. Fierce and unyielding. The fight wasn't over. The rogues still swarmed the borders. But for the first time since I'd stumbled into this world, I felt it. I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting for them in my own way, and they were starting to see me as their Luna. Chapter 14. The Lunas Stand. The battlefield was chaos, howls, snarls, and the sickening crack of bone. But slowly, surely, the tide began to turn. Under Adrian's command, the warriors drove the rogues back step by step, forcing them toward the trees. Bodies littered the lawn, blood staining the earth, but the pack held. I stayed at the heart of it, tending the fallen, giving every ounce of myself until my arms ached and my voice grew hoarse. Still, I refused to stop, not while even one wolf still breathed. And then Helena made her move. She emerged from the shadows like a viper, her crimson dress now torn, eyes blazing with a madness I hadn't seen before. In her hand glinted a dagger, silver-tipped, deadly to any werewolf it touched. She didn't go for the rogues, she went for me. I froze as she lunged, the blade aimed at my chest. "You will never be our Luna," she screamed, every word dripping venom. "Better the pack falls than be led by you." Time seemed to slow. Adrian roared my name, but he was too far, locked against a hulking rogue that clawed at his throat. It was just me. Me and Helena. For the briefest heartbeat, fear threatened to swallow me whole. But then I remembered the faces of the wounded I'd saved, the warriors who'd looked at me with new eyes, Adrian's voice telling me I was his anchor. I wasn't weak. Not anymore. As Helena's blade came down, I grabbed a shard of broken stone from the ground and swung with everything I had. The rock connected with her wrist, the dagger clattering to the dirt. She screamed, stumbling, but I didn't hesitate. I stepped forward, voice ringing out, not just to her, but to everyone within earshot. "You think being Luna means power?" My voice shook with fury and conviction. "It means sacrifice. It means bleeding for this pack. Even if you're human, even if you're afraid. I may not have claws, Helena, but I will fight for them. And that makes me Luna, whether you accept it or not." The battlefield stilled for just a moment. Wolves turned toward us, their eyes reflecting firelight and something else. Belief. Helena's face twisted in rage. "You'll regret." Before she could finish, Adrian was there, his wolf slamming her to the ground. His golden eyes blazed as his massive paw pinned her chest. For a heartbeat, it looked like he'd end her. But then he shifted back, standing over her in human form, his chest heaving. "You are no longer of this pack, Helena. The next time you cross our borders, it will be your last." Two warriors dragged her away, kicking and screaming, her words drowned by the victorious howls that erupted as the rogues finally broke and fled into the forest. The battle was over. Adrian turned, his body bloodied but unbowed. His gaze found me, and in that instant, everything else fell away. He crossed the field in long strides, cupping my face with hands still trembling from the fight. "You're insane," he breathed, voice rough with equal parts anger and awe. "You could have died." "And so could they," I whispered back. But they didn't, because I stayed, because I fought. His forehead pressed against mine, his golden eyes fierce. "You are mine, Lila, my mate, my Luna. And tonight you proved it not just to them." His gaze swept to the pack, watching us with reverent silence, but to me. The pack howled as one, a sound that shook the dawn sky. For the first time, I didn't flinch at the sound. I stood taller, blood on my hands, my heart pounding, not with fear, but with pride. I was their Luna. Not because Adrian chose me, not because the moon goddess bound us, but because I chose them. Epilogue: A Luna's Dawn. The city was quieter after the battle. For weeks, the estate had echoed with the sounds of healing, groans of the wounded, hurried footsteps of healers, the restless pacing of warriors who hated sitting still. But now, peace lingered like a fragile thread, woven into the walls by every wolf who had survived. I stood on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching the sunrise spill gold across New York's skyline. The city still roared beneath us, horns, sirens, life pressing forward as if nothing had happened. And yet, everything had changed. Behind me, the door creaked open. Adrian's warmth filled the space before his touch even found me. His arms slid around my waist, pulling me back against his chest, his scent grounding me instantly. "You should still be sleeping," he murmured, his breath brushing the curve of my neck. "I've done enough sleeping on your shoulder to last a lifetime," I teased softly. His low laugh rumbled through me, warm and steady. "You call that sleeping. I call it fate." We stood there in silence for a while, watching the sun climb higher. His chin rested atop my head, his hands secure at my waist as if he still feared I might slip away. Finally, I turned in his arms, looking up into his golden eyes. They no longer held only steel and fire. There was something softer now, something only I ever seemed to draw out of him. "They don't doubt me anymore," I whispered, half in awe, half in disbelief. "They never should have." His thumb brushed my cheek, lingering as if memorizing the shape of me. But wolves are stubborn. They needed to see with their own eyes what I already knew. "And what's that?" "That you're mine." His voice dipped lower, more intimate. "Not as a possession, not as a bond I didn't choose, but as my equal, my anchor, my Luna." The words still sent a shiver down my spine, not with fear, but with pride. I thought back to the girl I'd been weeks ago, exhausted, overworked, just a nurse trying to survive in a city that never slept. If someone had told me then that I'd wake up mated to an alpha, I'd have laughed in their face. And yet, here I was. Not trapped, not a victim of fate, but choosing, every day, to stay by his side. I rested my forehead against his. I was so afraid, Adrian. Afraid I'd never belong. Afraid I'd lose myself in your world. His hands tightened at my waist, grounding me. And now? Now, I smiled, a small certain thing. Now I think I was meant to find you. Not because of the goddess, not because of destiny, but because of who we are together. For the first time since the night we met, his shoulders eased as though I'd spoken the words he'd been waiting to hear. Then let's stop looking back, he murmured. The war is over. The rogues scattered. Helena banished. It's just us now. Our pack. Our future. He kissed me then, not with urgency, not with desperation, but with a slow, steady reverence that told me this was what all the battles had been for. When he pulled back, the first howl of the morning rose from the pack grounds below, soon joined by dozens more. Not cries of war this time, cries of unity, of renewal. Adrian glanced down, then back at me, a spark of pride in his golden eyes. They're calling for their Luna. And for once, I didn't hesitate. I stepped to the edge of the balcony, lifted my chin, and let my voice carry across the estate, raw but sure. I am here, I whispered into the dawn. And the pack answered. Thank you for staying till the end. Love from Celine.